Revealed, the rancher's incredible encounter with the devil that changed his life in 60 seconds. Jake Holloway, a steely-eyed rancher with hands worn from a lifetime of toil, fought the wind and rain that night like a man wrestling a wild stallion. The storm roared over his cattle ranch, a relentless assault that mirrored the turmoil in his heart. This was the price of his inherited legacy, yet the echoes of his father's teaching, steadfast dedication, loyalty to family haunted him like a whisper carried on the gusts. As he battled nature's fury, wrestling the stubborn cattle into the barn, his thoughts wandered, gripped by a growing desperation. Bills piled higher than the barn rafters, and every flicker of hope felt like a distant star fading away. All he wanted was to secure a future for Lily and Sam. Yet the land, his father's land, gripped tighter with each passing season, leaving him gasping for a way out. Just then, a figure emerged, strikingly out of place against the storm. "Evening, Jake," the smooth-talking salesman introduced himself as Leo, his voice a silken thread cutting through the chaos. "I can, how do you say, change your luck?" Lightning flickered, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the barn walls. The air shifted, charged with uncertainty. A deal hung in the balance, a terrible, seductive promise that left Jake's heart racing with indecision. With a weak breath, he hesitated, feeling something sink deep in his gut. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The moment lingered, Jake's fingers trembling as he clutched the pitchfork. The choice lay before him: retain his integrity, losing the chance of a life-changing fortune, or grab at the fleeting promise dangled before him. He felt like an old oak, branches whipping in the wind, about to snap. If he agreed, he could finally escape the suffocating weight of anxiety, but at what cost? The nagging voice in his head screamed for valor, yet the temptation pulsed with an intoxicating allure. As he signed the dotted line with shaky resolve, he felt a sting of triumph. Overnight, the ranch transformed. New barns flourished, cattle thrived as if touched by a blessing. Yet, shadows stretched long, tainting the joy that had once filled their home. Lily and Sam no longer looked at him as dad but rather stared through him, their once bright laughter dimming amid mounting unease. Guilt gnawed at Jake's insides, festering like an open wound. Amid the excitement, the hollowness grew overwhelming. Striding through the barn, surrounded by changed surroundings, he confronted the quiet devastation within. His father's lessons rang louder every day, binding him in remorseful knots. The growing distance in his family echoed louder than the storm raging outside, and when Leo appeared again, wearing that disconcerting grin, reality rushed in like the floodwaters threatening his land. As lightning illuminated the barn, Jake stood on the precipice of his own turmoil. Would he sacrifice everything to maintain the illusion of success, or reclaim the values that had been ground to dust beneath his ambition? The answer eluded him, leaving unanswered questions floating dangerously. Each crashing wave outside mirrored the storm brewing within. The ranch was alive with unsettling energy, an unsettling blend of glimmering success and deep-seated remorse swirling in the air like the storm that had battered it days prior. Jake spent restless nights pacing the creaking floorboards of his once-cherished home, the very place where his father had woven the fabric of their family's legacy around the hearth. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of his decisions was slowly sinking him into the ground beneath him. Outside, the world around him had transformed into a soulless facade, the new barns and cattle his hands never truly built. He glanced around, noticing how the sunlight glimmered over pristine roofs, reflecting sharply against the muted colors of his troubled soul. Again, he felt that hollowness, the echoing laughter of Lily and Sam replaced by an uncomfortable silence that screamed of an unspoken divide. In the days that followed the deal, guilt gripped him more tightly, gnawing away at his insides. It was as if he had invited a beast into his home, one that grew and morphed, devouring all remnants of happiness. Jake often caught himself staring into the faces of his children, searching desperately for signs of understanding, but all he saw were shadows of disappointment. They leapt into his heart with a devilish sting. Love turned to doubt and family ties corroded by secrecy. One evening, he decided to face the darkness head-on. The barn, transformed yet alien, was where his resolve crumbled and was reborn. That was where he first met Leo, the man whose words had pulled him into this maze of twisted fortune. As Jake brushed his hands against the barn's new wooden beams, he asked himself, what did true success look like? Was it the brilliance of this facade, or was it the warmth of family gathered around a table, sharing stories and laughter? His thoughts drifted, resurfacing a memory of his father's steadfast words echoing in his mind. Hard work doesn't always return splendor, Jake, but honesty will always guide your way. In that moment, a flicker of determination ignited within him. The normalized silence erupted with the swirling wind outside, demanding attention, begging to be confronted. He realized while everything had changed on the surface, he wielded the power to reclaim his narrative. Jake strode purposefully out of the barn, feeling grounded by a deep determination. He needed to seek out Leo and demand answers. What price had he truly paid for this increase in fortune? Blood ran thicker than water, but could it withstand the tidal wave of deception? Arranging his thoughts, Jake resolved to re-establish the rhythm of life on the ranch, grounding himself in reality once more. He wouldn't shy away from the responsibility of his choices. Instead, he'd confront them like a wild steer on the run, ready to wrestle it back under control. That night, with the moon casting a silver glow over the land, Jake marched into the heart of the storm again, this time ready to face Leo and unearth the truth behind the deal. Meanwhile, the shadows whispered, carrying a promise of consequence, as anticipation hung thick in the air. The moment of reckoning had arrived, and with it, Jake could either dismantle the corrupted structure of his newfound success or become its prisoner for good. As the moon illuminated the path ahead, Jake moved with determination, his heart pounding with every step toward Leo's office. The air was damp, thick with the scent of freshly plowed earth. It carried a certain weight only a rancher could appreciate. Yet for Jake, each whiff became a reminder of how far he'd strayed from traditional values, the values his father had instilled deep within him. Upon reaching the office, a modest structure that contrasted with the grandeur of the new barns, unease settled in his stomach. Was this confrontation his first step toward redemption, or had he already sealed his fate within the grip of deceit? He didn't have to wait long for the answer. Leo appeared, his imposing figure silhouetted against the warm glow of the desk lamp, a smile playing on his lips as if he anticipated the encounter. "Jake," Leo greeted, his tone smoothly concealing his intentions. "I've been waiting for you." "Cut the small talk, Leo," Jake responded, voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I want to know what your game is. What did I really buy into with this deal?" Leo leaned back, feigning casual indifference. "You've got quite the ranch now, Jake. Think of it as a partnership flourishing under the right conditions. Conditions that put me in a corner, squeezing me into trading what truly matters for what looks profitable from the outside," Jake challenged, his pulse racing. The weight of conviction settled into his bones. He understood the stakes, his family's legacy, the very essence of their history. The air between them tightened as Leo's expression shifted, enthusiasm giving way to something colder, calculated. "You think you can just walk away? The success you see around you is nothing compared to the influence I wield. You've painted a pretty picture, but I've built the frame." Jake inhaled sharply, a wave of disappointment crashing over him. Was he merely a pawn in a larger game? Every fear became a tangible entity, blocking the clarity he sought. He thought of Lily and Sam, their trust slipping through his fingers like sand. How could he reclaim their faith with an empty promise of freedom? "I want to let you dictate my future. Your money doesn't come without a price," he asserted, fists clenched at his sides. "The price is family, and I want to pay that toll." Leo's eyes narrowed, appraising Jake like a horse before a sale, searching for weakness, confidence, or perhaps both. "You really believe you can dismantle what I've built? This isn't just a conversation, Jake. You'd better think about what you're risking." "Risking what?" "A hollow version of success." Jake shot back. I'd rather work with the land and my family than stand on a shaky foundation of lies. They deserve the truth. For a brief moment, silence blanketed the room, but it was Jake's resolve that shattered it. He took a long, deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage he possessed. The confrontation transformed as he reached out, not simply for answers but for a path towards integrity. I realize now that success isn't measured by what you have, but by the trust that binds you to your family, Jake continued, his voice gaining strength. I'd rather start from scratch than tether myself to a monster of my own making. The tension pulsed between them, creating an electric charge that seemed to challenge Jake's every conviction. Leo's laughter broke the silence, sharp and menacing, a clear warning. So, it's war then. A battle against shadows. What choice do I have? Jake snapped back defiantly, heart racing with adrenaline. As Leo stepped closer, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath his facade. Jake's heart pounded in tune with the unspoken challenge. But the moment held an underlying darkness, a subtle recognition of consequences yet to be faced. What awaited him if he walked out without concluding this confrontation? Was it merely freedom he craved, or a deeper sense of purpose within his tumultuous world? Uncertainty hung in the air like a storm cloud threatening to burst, and Jake stood at the precipice of newfound clarity or delusion. The next move would define him, but the stakes had never been higher. Would he have the strength to dismantle the grown monstrosity of his own creation, or would the shadows claim him? The time had come to decide. Jake's pulse thundered in his ears as he stepped back, releasing a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He felt the weight of every decision pressing down on him, the specter of failure haunting the corners of his mind. Leaving the office without a clear resolution felt like stepping off the edge of a cliff, plunging into uncertainty with nothing but a glimmer of hope. "You're dodging, Jake," Leo said, his voice smooth yet laden with a predatory edge. "You can't dance around this. You're in deeper than you think." In that moment, Jake's mind raced through possible outcomes, analyzing his options like a detective piecing together a crime. He could retreat, burying his head in the sand, but the cost would be a lifetime of regret. He could charge forward, challenging Leo head-on, but that could place everything he valued at risk too. Clarity dawned like the first rays of sun breaking over the horizon. "I'm not afraid of the truth," Jake declared, his voice steadying. The conviction in his tone surprised even him. "Maybe I'll lose everything, but I can't keep living a lie. My father wouldn't have wanted that." Leo's expression shifted slightly, something like fury and admiration flickering in his eyes. "It's South brave to court catastrophe. But you'd rather embrace failure than see the bigger picture," he replied, his tone condescending, yet Jake felt the stirrings of a deeper resolve. His father had often said that true courage was not the absence of fear but the will to confront it. He remembered their long talks on the porch, lessons that now took on new significance. "What has the land taught me? Who did I become? I refuse to let my loyalty be manipulated by your vision of success." "Vision?" Leo scoffed. "You think you have the luxury of turning away from what could be yours? The ranch, the expansion, a life free of worry. All you have to do is follow my lead." His words were like a siren's call, alluring yet filled with treachery. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. Was it an opportunity to reclaim his identity or merely another pathway to ensnare himself? Leo had made the ranch glamorous on the surface, but Jake now understood the truth lurking beneath. "I have a different lead to follow," Jake stated, steeling himself against Leo's poisoned allure. "I'll chart my course, one that restores my family's legacy." Leo tilted his head, an amused smirk playing on his lips, evaluating Jake as if he were a puzzle piece he couldn't quite place. "And how do you intend to do that? You think you can just tear up our contract and walk away? What's left for you? A dilapidated ranch and dreams left to rot?" Jake could hear the challenge echoing through the space. It struck him like an arrow aimed straight for his heart. The challenge ignited a fire within him. What's left is freedom, Leo. Freedom from deceit. I cannot let your ambition suffocate my family's core values. They deserve better than an empty deal. He stepped closer, driven by determination and defiance. Jake wasn't merely standing his ground, he was reclaiming his past while preparing to seize his future. The momentary shift in Leo's demeanor told him that perhaps he struck nerves beneath the armor. You don't know how dark the road ahead is, Leo warned, a chilling sincerity unfolding. Show me then, Jake replied, ready to face the shadows. If it means fighting for what my family stands for, even the darkness won't frighten me. For a fleeting moment, he saw respect flicker in Leo's eyes before it morphed back into indignation. Careful, Jake. You may find more than you bargained for. Silence fell heavily between them, filled with unchallenged challenges and promises half-formed. Jake turned to leave, but the door felt like the edge of a precipice. Each step resonated with the echo of decisions yet to unfold. As he gripped the doorknob, the uncertainty of what awaited him outside gnawed at the edges of his resolve, but it was the promise of reclaiming his family's identity that propelled him forward. His heart raced with the exhilarating blend of fear and hope, a potent cocktail of purpose. Just as he opened the door, a final thought loomed large: could he navigate the repercussions of his choice without losing everything? As the world outside beckoned, it felt less like an ending than a beginning, one fraught with potentially life-altering consequences. What battles awaited him as he stepped outside? Would he find allies in the unlikeliest of places, or would he be forced to confront the full force of Leo's ambition alone? Jake stepped outside and felt the crispness of the morning air wrap around him like a freshly sewn fabric, each breath igniting memories of the ranch his father nurturing the earth, the way sunlight kissed the land, and the faint sound of hooves echoing like a comforting lullaby. Yet as he glanced back at the office building, the constraints of his old life juxtaposed sharply against the freedom he craved. His decision hadn't merely been a critical pivot, it was his declaration of independence. Turning away from the office, Jake walked toward the barn. The familiar scent of hay and aged wood filled his lungs, grounding him amid the swirling chaos of his thoughts. Today wasn't just about unraveling Leo's grasp on the ranch, it was about rediscovering who he was at his core, his essence stripped of deceit and manipulation. That he recalled the times he'd buried himself in the details of the farm, working the fields until dusk, feeling the land thrum with life under his fingertips. Those moments, filled with honesty and labor, reminded him of the values that turned the ranch into a home, not just a business. Yet Leo's vision threatened to dismantle that foundation, leaving nothing but profit-laden echoes behind. Jake had no time to waste. He needed a plan, but his strategy couldn't rely solely on the desire to break free from Leo's influence. He needed allies, people who cherished the ranch as much as he did. He thought of Sarah, the ranch's caretaker, who'd been with his family since his childhood. Her unwavering commitment to the land had always made her a pillar of strength. He needed her support now more than ever. As he approached the barn, he spotted Sarah tending to the horses, her hands deftly brushing down the elegant creatures. The light caught her raven hair, and he noticed her focused determination toward her work. He admired her resilience, qualities he hoped to harness for his own fortitude. "Hey, Sarah," he called out, drawing her attention. "Jake." Her brow furrowed slightly, sensing the tension lacing his voice. "Everything all right?" "Not quite. But I need to talk to you. About the ranch, about us. I'm ready to fight for it, and I could use your help." "What do you mean?" she asked, setting the brush down. A mixture of curiosity and wariness crossed her face. "I'm stepping away from Leo's vision. He has plans that jeopardize everything we've built here, and I refuse to let him demolish our legacy. We can do this together," he urged. "Together, we could bring the ranch back to its roots, back to what it stood for." Sarah crossed her arms, a signature sign that conveyed she was not easily swayed. "You know Leo won't take this lightly. He has powerful backers behind him. Are you ready for the fallout?" Her words hung between them, stark and sharp. He felt a flicker of doubt momentarily pierce his resolve, but he quickly tapped into the newfound determination bubbling within. I have to face whatever consequences come. I've spent too long letting fear dictate my choices. We can show Leo that the heart of this ranch can't be bought. Jake noticed a shift in Sarah's expression as she took a deep breath, weighing his proposal against her own convictions. He could sense her internal battle. I like the ranch, Jake, but I don't know if I can fight a fight this big. Then, let us make it smaller. The idea sparked in his mind, igniting another piece of the puzzle. Let us rally the others, the hands, the community. Show them what Leo is trying to take. They may not have known how close we were to losing it all. We can unite them to stand for what we believe in. Jake's voice filled with urgency and passion, trying to inspire the flame of resistance he hoped resided in her as well. We're stronger together, remember? As he spoke, a surge of confidence coursed through him, urging him to fill his spaces with action, not just thoughts. Every word he uttered was a commitment to redefine what the ranch meant to him, turning his memories of the past into strength for the battles ahead. Sarah looked at him anew, and a glimmer of hope shone in her eyes. Challenging the tautness that had held her captive until now. All right, she said slowly, but I won't lie to you, Jake. It'll be hard. We could lose everything. Horse hooves shuffled restlessly behind them, a reminder of the commitment that lay ahead and the tumult to come. Then we'll fight like hell for it, Jake replied, fueled by the realization that true bravery lay not just in facing darkness but also in igniting light where there was none. With each moment they spoke, the possibility of distinction grew clearer. Jake was not just reclaiming his family's legacy, he was forging a new principles-based foundation filled with values, integrity, and community. But as they stepped into the light, Jasmine's voice crackled over the radio, unnaturally urgent, announcing an unexpected visitor. A twist of fate or treachery, Jake knew not which. The tension coiled tight once more, a new challenge brewing on the horizon. What would the confrontation with this unexpected visitor reveal? Would it be another obstacle, or maybe a pivotal ally? Jasmine's urgent voice crackled through the radio, her tone laced with an uneasy tension that sent a shiver down Jake's spine. Jake, you need to get to the gate. There's someone here to see you. It's Leo. His body went rigid at the mention of Leo's name. Jake had prepared for many scenarios as he grappling with both his fear and resolve, but an encounter with his former boss was something he hadn't anticipated so soon. It felt like a storm brewing on the horizon, dark and menacing. Damn it, Jake muttered under his breath. He glanced at Sarah, who mirrored his concern. We need to face him. Sarah nodded, although apprehension hung heavy in the air. You sure you want to do this now? We'd be better off getting our plans in order first. Every moment we delay gives him more power, Jake countered, an edge of adrenaline sparking through him. We need to make it clear that I'm not backing down. Stepping away from the barn, he felt the ground beneath his boots grounding him one last time before this critical confrontation. He was fully aware that this meeting could shape the direction they'd take together moving forward. He took a deep breath and began walking toward the gate, each stride a testament to his newfound commitment. As he approached, he spotted Leo leaning against the gate with an easy smile, his polished facade reflecting an unsettling confidence. The sunlight cast shadows across Leo's face, which flickered like a mirage in Jake's mind, sparking memories of submission and anguish. Jake, Leo called out, his tone almost too casual. Nice to see you out and about. Thought you might be holed up in your office, counting your losses. Why are you here, Leo? Jake shot back, an audacious edge in his voice he wasn't accustomed to displaying. Straight to the point, I see, Leo replied, pushing himself away from the gate, his demeanor shifting to a more serious tone. I wanted to have a little chat. It seems you've been stirring the pot around here, and I think we need to set some boundaries. Boundaries? You mean like the ones you've been trying to cross? Jake's heart raced. He felt the first clear pangs of defiance rising up in him, stirring the confidence he had ignited with Sarah only moments before. Leo raised an eyebrow, as if genuinely amused by Jake's obstinance. You don't understand, do you? This ranch is a business now, and businesses require ruthless decisions. You want to play the hero, but in the end, it's just a game. And I'm the one who holds the cards. Jake felt his chest tighten at the calculated threat in Leo's voice. Anger surged within him, battling against the powerful urge to retreat once again into a place of caution, a place that always led him to compliance. I'm not just going to let you take everything away from us. This place means too much. Leo chuckled, the sound laced with disdain. You and your ideals, he mocked. You think you can fight this battle on the ground? Look around you, Jake. You're small fish in a big ocean. Power is about who you know, not what you stand for. Feeling the uncertainty swirl inside him, Jake had another revelation. He straightened, the determination igniting more fiercely inside him. What if you're wrong? What if the heart of this ranch is worth fighting for? Then you're going to find out just how determined I can be to keep it under my control, Leo replied, the amusement fading from his expression. But I'll offer you one last chance. Join me, and you can keep what's left of your precious legacy. The proposition loomed like a storm cloud over Jake, a dangerous lure. But he knew he could not compromise his values, nor could he let fear dictate his response any longer. I'll never stand with you, Leo, Jake asserted firmly, each word falling with conviction. I'd rather lose everything than be part of your greed. A brief silence stretched painfully between them before Jake turned away from the gate, determined to leave with a last word that would linger. But you'll find that I am done being a pawn. His heart surged as he walked back toward the barn, adrenaline mixing with fear and resolve. But behind him, Leo's laughter echoed, dripping with menace. As Jake climbed the steps back to Sarah, he caught himself trembling, grappling with the audacity of what he had just done. He had engaged in a dangerous game, and the rules were shifting beneath him. Jake, you okay? Sarah asked, concern flashing in her eyes. No, he admitted, the weight of his defiance sinking in. But I will be. I need to confront him on my own terms, and I need to think strategically. He didn't know just yet how everything would unfold, but he felt the contours of his own resolve solidifying into something that couldn't be easily shaken. As they turned back towards the barn, Jake realized there was no turning back. He would need to prepare, not just for the fight of his life, but for the unveiling of deeper truths he hadn't yet discovered within himself. But as they settled into their strategy, a distant rumble of engines approached, an ominous sign of more disruptions ahead. Who else could be arriving, and what did they want? The broil of Jake's anticipation heightened as he sensed that tonight's discussions might unearth far more than he was ready to handle. Jake stood at the barn's entrance, squaring his shoulders against the weight of uncertainty. The impending arrival of unknown visitors replayed in his mind, mixing anxiety with determination. He had just faced Leo and emerged with a scrap of dignity, but this next encounter promised higher stakes. Let's check the perimeter, he said to Sarah, masking his unease with action. He moved deliberately, assessing the surroundings. Each creak of the wood beneath his boots, each whisper of wind against the barn's walls became a part of his heightened awareness. The ranch, long a symbol of his past, now felt like a battleground. As they made their way around the property, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the precipice of change. Each step was not just a move toward potential threats, but also a march toward self-discovery. It was time to reevaluate his strategy. Standing up to Leo had been just the beginning. He had to reinforce his leadership, foster a community he could rely on, and confront the shadows of his weaknesses. Jake, do you really think you can take on Leo like this? Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. Not just take him on, he replied, voice steadying with newfound resolve. I need to outsmart him. I have to gather our allies. Amidst the doubts rising like a tide, Jake considered his relationship with the ranch hands. They were more than workers, they were a team, a family. Reconnecting with them would be pivotal. We need a meeting tonight, he declared, igniting an internal flame that banished the lingering shadows of fear. To rally everyone. We must strategize, create a united front. As night fell, Jake gathered the ranch hands in the main barn. Dim light illuminated their faces, casting long shadows. He watched as their tentative expressions mirrored the concern swirling within him. Deep down, he recognized that his aim was more than retaining the ranch, it was about asserting control over his life, his decisions, his path forward. "Everyone," he began, voice echoing with an intensity he hadn't known he was capable of. "I know things have been uncertain lately. Leo's threat looms large, and we've all felt the pressure." He scanned the group's faces, weighing their support against the unresolved tension. "But we can't let fear dictate our actions." Whispers darted amongst them, a mix of apprehension and curiosity. "Leo's play is about power," Jake continued, determination swelling. "He assumes we'll crumble. But we have something he will never understand, our loyalty to this land, to each other. He knows the business, but we know the heart of this ranch." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, the spark igniting visible confidence among the hands. Turning to Sarah, he could see the pride in her eyes, a belief in his unfolding transformation. "We need everyone on board for this," he pressed. "Let us map out a plan. There's strength in numbers." As they shared ideas, Jake felt a burgeoning sense of purpose. A latent part of himself was awakening, the leader who had been stifled under Leo's manipulation. He listened, encouraged suggestions, and soon the atmosphere filled with a collaborative energy. This wasn't just talk, they were weaving a strategy together, but even amidst the excitement, a lingering question loomed in Jake's mind: would this newfound unity be enough against Leo's calculated ruthlessness? He wrestled with self-doubt as each minute passed, caught in a web of uncertainty surrounding the risks they were about to undertake. As the meeting concluded and everyone began to disperse, Jasmine approached him, her expression serious yet supportive. "Jake, it's good to see you taking the lead," she said, her eyes gleaming with cautious optimism. "But you need to be prepared for what comes next. Leo won't back down easily. Believe me, I'm ready for the challenge." Jake felt the conviction in his voice, but alongside it, an underlying tremor of anxiety nestled in his core. The rustle of unseen presences, lurking within the shadows of both his life and the outcomes he faced, remained unsettling. As he stepped outside, the distant sound of engines roared louder, headlights flickering ominously down the long gravel road. Who could it be now? Anxiety swelled, briar-like in his stomach. He could only hope that the alliances he had begun to forge would withstand what was about to unfold. But deep within, a depths of understanding was forming, a realization that the fight was as much about reclaiming his identity as it was about protecting the ranch. The growl of approaching vehicles echoed in his thoughts, demanding action. The moment of truth was edging closer. The headlights cut through the darkness like searching beams of scrutiny, illuminating the shape of a vehicle that Jake had only seen once before. Recognition stirred within him, sending a jolt of adrenaline racing through his veins. It was Leo's truck. Jake's mind raced, contemplating the implications of this uninvited arrival. What did Leo want now? Standing firmly at the barn entrance, he took a deep breath, forcing himself to step forward. This was a pivotal moment. He had to be the embodiment of the fight he had just inspired in his ranch hands. "Jake," Sarah's voice interrupted, tender yet urgent. "You should think twice before confronting him alone." "I can't let him intimidate me," he replied, conviction seeping through the cracks of his earlier insecurities. "The team needs to see that I won't back down." He felt the weight of responsibility, a pressure that solidified his resolve. With every step towards the approaching vehicle, he could hear the muffled sound of dissenting voices from his teammates echoing in his mind, instilling confidence. They had rallied behind him, he owed it to them to stand his ground. As the truck stopped, its engine sputtered into silence. The door swung open, releasing a cloud of stale tension along with Leo, who stepped out with arrogance radiating from every pore. "Jake," Leo called out, his smirk cutting like a knife through the night air. "I see you've gathered your little entourage. Bold move." Jake's heart pounded, the pit of anxiety battling with his burgeoning strength. "This isn't about boldness, Leo. It's about standing up for what's right for this ranch. Leo stepped closer, eyes narrowing, assessing Jake like he was prey. You think you've gained strength by calling a few workers a family? They'll abandon you, just like everyone else. You're just delaying the inevitable. The hardness in Jake's chest morphed into a roaring fire. I'm done being manipulated, Leo. You've underestimated the loyalty of my team. You're wrong about them, and you're wrong about me. A tense silence hung between them, thick as smoke. Jake's pulse quickened. The moment felt charged, as if their words could galvanize an ancient standoff. Leo's confidence cracked for an instant, the facade revealing the familiar aggression that Jake had known too well. Don't pretend you know me, Jake. You've always been the underdog. Leo's words dripped with condescension, stirring old demons deep within Jake. That description echoed doubt. Was he still the underdog? The label he had worn like a shackle for far too long. His voice trembled with emotion and defiance. Maybe, but I'm not alone anymore. I have a team that believes in more than fear. Jake's declaration hung in the air, palpable and assertive. He could see Leo's astonishment. For a split second, it was clear underneath that gauzy smugness lay in uneasiness. The wheels of Jake's plan began to spin. This confrontation was more than a verbal sparring match, it was a declaration that he was willing to transform. In that moment, Jake felt a surge of clarity. He was no longer just protecting the ranch, he was carving out his identity. Leadership, he realized, was not just about authority, it was about embracing vulnerability, standing tall amid adversities, and feeling the strength stem from camaraderie. Leo's eyes flickered, a brief crack appearing in his aggressive demeanor. You'll regret this stance, Jake. I promise you that. Without turning away, Jake responded, then try me. The enormity of his stance echoed in the chilled air, invigorating him with a newfound energizing pulse. Returning to the barn, Jake felt every glance from his team, their tentative belief forged into something stronger. They were there, their presence igniting his determination, reflecting his resolve. But as the weight of Leo's words sunk in, a deep unease crept in, a chilling prediction of the conflict ahead lingered in the back of his mind, entwining tight with the spirit of resistance he hoped to embody. The engines roared again, undulating and reverberating through the darkness as Leo stepped back into the vehicle. The urgency surged. It was clear, this was just the beginning. What lay ahead was a battle not just for the ranch, but for his emerging self. The anticipation of conflict loomed large, an unrelenting reminder of what and whom Jake was fighting for. With his heart racing and clarity drive his thoughts, Jake understood one resounding truth: change was coming. And facing it would require courage unlike any he had summoned before. The rumble of Leo's retreating truck faded into the distance, but the question remained, what would be the ultimate price for reclaiming not just the ranch, but his identity? One thing was certain, the next confrontation would test everything he had just begun to discover about himself. The air settled into an uncomfortable stillness after Leo's departure, leaving Jake at the threshold of an awakening. He inhaled deeply, letting the crisp night air fill his lungs, murmuring a silent promise to himself. This time, he wouldn't back down. It was more than just the ranch at stake, it was everything he was beginning to understand about himself as a leader. Clutching the barn door, Jake turned back to his team gathered inside. Their eyes gleamed with questions. Some were anxious, others filled with an unsettling mix of hope and fear. They had stood beside him, their faith kindling a fire within him that no external force could extinguish. Listen up. He called, commanding their attention. What just happened out there isn't just a conflict with Leo. It's a challenge to the changes we're fighting for. He paced in front of them, the rhythm of his movement matching the heartbeat of the ranch, the very pulse of their collective struggles. This is bigger than one aggressor, it's about asserting our place here, together. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group, some nodding, others visibly shifted in their stances. It struck him then leadership wasn't merely about being unyielding, it was about genuinely engaging with those who relied on him. Their trust had to be reciprocated, and he had to show them that vulnerability could coexist with strength. Leo thinks we're weak because he sees us as employees and not a family, Jake continued, his passion igniting determination in the room. I'm ready to stand up for this ranch and all of you. As he looked around at their faces, he saw understanding transforming into something more resolute. Courage. In that moment, Jake synthesized his thoughts, devising an audacious plan. We need a strategy. If Leo believes he can intimidate us into capitulation, he is sorely mistaken. Let us draw the line. We'll prepare for whatever he brings next. Their faces lit up with renewed energy as Jake outlined ideas for self-defense, ways to bolster their defenses both emotionally and physically. He had learned that this was no longer just about fending off Leo, it was about banding together as a unit, to showcase their strength as a collective entity. The more Jake spoke, the more he felt the shackles of his past crumbling. With every strategic detail he shared, he unveiled another layer of competence within himself he had never fully acknowledged. This wasn't inexperience, it was innovative resilience converging with newly found resolve. As he concluded, he felt a shift, no longer was he an underdog dreading the next confrontation. Instead, he was painting a picture of hope, rallying his team with considerations of unity over isolation. Each plan solidified their bond and his conviction that they could wield their shared values as a shield against Leo's inherent darkness. Yet, as they agreed and strategized into the night, an ember of apprehension gnawed at Jake's core. What if Leo retaliated in a way he couldn't foresee? Digging deeper into that fear unlocked a broader revelation: actions rooted in integrity were always open to scrutiny. In this pursuit of rebuilding his identity, Jake could not lose sight of his own morals, lest he become the very thing he was trying to resist. He resolved to lead by example, embodying the principles he wanted his team to uphold. As dawn approached, he realized that each dawn carried the weight of a new decision, a moment where fear could either drive him backward or propel him forward, and as the sun began to spread its golden hues across the horizon, illuminating the potential that lay before them, Jake recognized the upcoming confrontation with Leo may not just define the ranch but also culminate in the ultimate revelation of his true self. But would he have the strength to maintain his newfound principles when confronted with everything he feared? Would the true test of his leadership be the battle for the ranch, or would it penetrate the very fabric of his character? Jake Holloway stood on the porch of the newly refurbished barn, the early morning sun casting warm golden light over the land he had fought and toiled for. The whispers of doubt that had haunted him for so long had finally quieted, replaced by a newfound clarity. He took a deep breath, letting the smell of fresh hay roll over him like a comforting embrace. It felt, at last, like the ranch was his again. The confrontation with Leo had felt like walking through fire, but it had forged him stronger, stripping away the insecurities that had lingered like shadows in his mind. Now, he envisioned a ranch run not just by ambition, but by the values that shaped his family's legacy: honesty, loyalty, and hard work. The landscape around him hummed with potential, not just in its fields and cattle, but in the sense of unity he had started to cultivate among his team. That he looked out over the faces of the ranch hands gathered in the yard, their expressions a blend of determination and renewed hope. Together, they had strategized, planned, and grown as a cohesive unit. Each member felt invested in the future of the ranch, sharing the burden of responsibility and shining a light on their collective commitment to reshape their destiny. I know we have been through hell and back, Jake began, stepping forward to address them with conviction, but it's time we put our plan into action. Leo may think he can intimidate us, but we stand as one. We build not just roofs and corrals but a stronger foundation of trust. A ripple of agreement surged through the group, each nod and murmur bolstered his confidence. The ambience had shifted from tension to camaraderie, igniting a fire of accountability among them. They shared laughter, exchanged stories about their time in the field, and their collective purpose began to crystallize. As they united, Jake felt not just relief, but pride. This was his family. In the weeks that followed, the transformation of the ranch mirrored the metamorphosis within him. Jake poured his efforts into fostering a community spirit that extended beyond mere words. Meetings transformed into gatherings that celebrated the land they loved, igniting synergy among the ranch hands. Each evening, they shared meals together, laughter bridging the gaps that first felt so insurmountable. This wasn't just about saving the ranch anymore, it became a campaign fueled by principles and respect. Jake harnessed his struggles, channeling them into focused energy, turning the ranch into a symbol of resilience and reinvention. Next came the strategic defensive tactics they had laid out against Leo, which began with presenting him with documentation that showcased their achievements and community involvement. They realized they had something Leo would never understand, an inherent value rooted in loyalty and hard work. When the day of reckoning finally arrived, Jake stood at the entrance, flanked by those who had become extensions of himself over this tumultuous journey. He felt solid confidence surge through him as Leo's truck pulled up again, the air thick with anticipation. "Jake, I see you've gathered an entourage once more," Leo remarked, his arrogance dripping with skepticism. Yet behind his bravado, Jake noticed something else: uncertainty. "We aren't alone anymore, Leo," Jake declared firmly, his voice steady and unwavering. "This is about more than you and me. You may have thought you could buy our trust, but it's not for sale. We are built on values that cannot be shaken." Jake was ready to face whatever came next. He had demonstrated not just to Leo but also to himself that he had evolved far beyond a mere cattle rancher struggling for survival. Jake felt light, fulfilled, a testament to the lessons he had internalized from long-lost memories of his father. He had ruled his life instead of allowing it to be ruled by others. As Leo scoffed at the conviction humming in the air, Jake stood tall, holding the gaze of not just Leo but all those alongside him. Here was his moment, a culmination of every trial endured, negotiation faced, and every doubt squashed in the face of purpose. "This ranch is ours," Jake declared, echoing a sentiment that rang true for each person present. The resonance of their collective voices filled the air, reverberating strength that no one could ever take from them again. Today, they would affirm their commitment to nurturing their values far beyond the facades of success. In that moment, Jake had achieved not just personal growth but a new legacy, one that prioritized family and integrity over all else. As he turned to his team, pride swelled within him. He had grasped the real essence of leadership: nurturing community, inspiring growth, and fueling purpose. The sun set beautifully over the horizon, each beam casting golden hues across the expansive ranch. Jake felt the weight of fulfillment resting upon him, a testament to his progress. He had confronted his demons, dismantled the weight of manipulation, and rebuilt not only the ranch but his own identity. Today, he stood not only as a rancher but as a leader, a protector of lasting values. He glanced at Lily and Sam, who beamed with pride. He was finally the father they needed, the man he aspired to be. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one prepared for life's uncertainties, binding their histories into futures filled with promise. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.